He loved Australia, he loved what he did. He did not hesitate when he was told, you need to go there and serve your country. He was a very generous, kind-hearted person with the cheekiest grin you would ever have seen. So he could say the naughtiest things and get away with it just by smiling. He was a very forgiving and loving person, and also a man of few words. I've heard so many people say to me that if Brett opened his mouth to speak, you stopped and listened, because he would only speak when necessary and he always had something relevant and important to say. He was, in my eyes, a true leader. He treated those below him very well and equally and fairly. He wanted everybody to have a say, and he believed that everybody should have their opinion and it should be heard. He was very fair with the people that he worked with. He was, as I said, he was kind-hearted and just a good person, and I think that really shone through the higher he went up in his rank. I saw a group of guys that came from very different backgrounds, very different personalities, ideas and beliefs, but when they worked together as a team, they were a team. That was it. All the differences went out the door. I saw a group of guys that would look after each other no matter what. They would always have each other's back. And it was a loyalty that at first I didn't understand, but then one that I never questioned, because they knew that they had to be there for each other when it mattered. Over time, I just saw what they meant to each other and that they needed to rely on each other. And you just don't question that. You understand it. You begin to understand it. I think it's very different for everybody. I think to be the wife of a soldier or of a military man, you've either sort of come into it from the very early stages and built those bonds and those friendships from the very beginning, or when you meet your partner later in life, which is how I met Brett, I didn't sort of have that circle to rely on, but I did meet people, and there was always just a sense of understanding. You could make a comment and know that it would be understood straight away. There was no having to explain long absences and what they meant and how they would make you feel. When he left in March, it was really hard. We had talked a lot about our future and his future plans for his career, and he did feel that this was going to be his last tour for quite some time. And he kept saying to me, we just get through this one and then he won't have to go away again for a long time. So it was really hard to say goodbye to him, because while I listened to what he said, that it would be his last one, at the same time I didn't want him to go. I asked if I could go to the airport, but Brett was going over in a different capacity in his last tour. He was in the rank of a sergeant and in charge of a lot of people. He needed to be at the airport to lead his men, to get them all on the plane, to not show any kind of weak, soft emotion in a sense. And he knew that by having me there and having me crying, that he would have to show a side that he didn't want his men and his colleagues to see. So I was asked to stay at home. When you get a call, when they call you, you have to develop code words. You can only ask questions about what did they eat, what did they do that day, did they go to the gym, what else did they do, did they play any sport, what did they do? You can't ask any other questions beyond that. You can't ask when are they going out again or what's the next task that they've got planned. So there are a lot of code words that are used. You're the one that has to carry the conversation. And that's a big burden on the family at home, especially I felt on me, was to carry the conversation and say everything that was happening back in Australia, and then only being able to ask limited questions in return. But Brett was very big on letting me know when he would be away from the base and then when he would be coming back. And so we developed a bit of a code on terms of how many days he would be gone, so that I would know that I wouldn't get any phone calls during that time, but I would have a fair idea of when I would hear from him again, which as hard as it was to count down those days, was also good to know that there would be contact coming. I woke up because my phone was ringing. and it was Brett's best friend. And it didn't click because I didn't understand why he'd be calling me at 5 a.m. And when I went to pick up the phone, I heard the doorbell ringing at the same time. So I just thought he was out the front and there was an emergency and he needed to come in. So I just went downstairs, turned on the light and opened the door, and you read about it in books and you see it in TV shows and on movies where someone opens the door and there are men and women there in uniform, but to actually have it happen, I can't even put it into words. You feel like you're in a dream. But the really amazing thing is that Brett had asked for his best friend to be there as part of the notification team so that I could see a familiar face and so that I would open the door. And that's exactly what I did. I opened the door because I knew that that friend was there. So it was a really interesting way to find out how well Brett knew me, because he knew that I wouldn't open the door to a group of people that I didn't know. He knew I'd only do it if I saw someone that I knew. And he'd never told me that he'd put that into place. He'd never told me. I can't be bitter. I'm sad. I'm really sad that he doesn't get to live his life, that he doesn't get to see his dreams come true. But I can't be bitter because he was doing what he loved. He wanted to be there. He wanted to serve his country. And I have to keep supporting that. To be bitter about that would be really, really letting go of what he believed in. He loved Australia. He was one of the proudest Australians I've ever met. Every time he would go away, coming home to him made him even more grateful to live here, to be Australian, to have all the freedom that we have. It also frustrated him to be at home and be surrounded by so many people that had no idea of how great we have it. What he saw overseas, what he experienced, he really wanted to have a good life for himself and to make a difference and to be happy. We had lots of plans together to remain in Australia for the rest of our lives, to travel the whole country together. But he's very, very proud to be Australian, very proud. The unit to Commando, they're fantastic. I always feel welcome. I always feel like I can pick up the phone and there'll always be someone there to talk to. A lot of the guys that Brett referred to as his brothers are now my brothers. They're like my big brothers, and they're there to support me and to take care, and they'll be the first to protect me if I ever felt afraid or unsafe. And that's something that I'm really grateful for. It doesn't always work out. Guys move on with their life. They don't want to be reminded daily of the mate they've lost or what could happen to them. But the ones that have remained, the ones that have stayed by my side, I'll never ever forget what they've done for me. And they're doing what Brett would have wanted, and I know that he would be so proud of them.